elites versus masses, and increasing inequality. What to do about the inequality?
Yeah. So I think there are we shouldn't confuse elites with people in power and governance, because there are examples in, say, Estonia, Finland, of kind of, and Denmark, young female prime ministers who 20 years ago were working at the counter of a shop or something like that. Now, those countries are very, very equal. Europe doesn't.
I'm sorry. I meant elites in the sense of political corruption.
Yeah. The
USA, you have two parties. They have these games every 4 years. The winner gets to sell its institutional positions to the highest bidder. Special interests. How to break this cycle?
Yeah. So my book is partly about this one chapter on kind of political entrepreneurship. And the sad thing is that many people who are idealistic about politics and want to change things, they don't succeed, maybe because they're not cynical enough, or they don't kind of capture the system, or they're too much outside the system. And that's why I think Macron is interesting, that he's a sort of system insider, and he's hijacked the system from the inside with the help of lots of people. So I think there's a few things to bear in mind. One is that if you want to change the system, you have, unless you're prepared to be really radical and have a violent revolution, you need to come in towards the center a bit. The second thing is, I think technology is really interesting, because social media is definitely changing politics for the worst, but also in countries where you have a lot of corruption, social media is increasingly, Kenya as an example, increasingly being used in things like social security systems, monitoring of government finances to reduce corruption. So I actually think that you will have more people who will be convinced that the role of technology in politics is really important from a point of view of transparency. So that's one thing, and that's one growing trend. A free press, which is, you look at Belarus or even France, which is very limited in terms of free press, for example. So I think that's one of the great things about countries like England or Ireland, is that the press is very, very free. And then then I think you need to be able to find. It's a bit like going from setting up a startup to a real business, because if I look at America, there are lots of little startup protest movements, and frankly, if all they're going to do is smash up shops, then they have no chance of success, and they don't deserve it either. So you have to be able to take energy and anger and translate it into a tangible political goal or manifesto, and then map out a way to try and achieve that. And I think many people, it's a different skill set. That's why many people fail, actually.
You have mentioned that perhaps standing back a bit and figuring out about the drivers to grow organically would be the best way going forward. Is still the case, as you see it?
Yeah, so I think one of the issues in big economies in the last 10 years is that sort of organic economic growth, trend growth is actually slowing. And the obvious measure of that is productivity. So productivity in the States has slowed. Productivity in the UK is the lowest it's been in like a century. And that's a symptom of lots of things: demographics, education, investment in education, investment in research. So many different things. And to compensate for the decline in productivity and growth, that's why you have central banks doing all the QE. It's why you have governments taking on all this debt, for example.
You see an important driver to break that into a positive direction, like more investment in innovation, or?
I do. So I think
where do you see the kind of groups of instruments?
Yeah, so I think there has to be debate really on kind of growth and what are its drivers. And I'm biased, and Slovenia is probably a good example of this as well. But the countries who've best cracked this kind of puzzle of organic growth and where does it come from are kind of small dynamic economies, Netherlands, Sweden, etc. And they're all quite different, but they do similar things. So very clear rule of law, training, education, giving incentives for innovation and allowing innovation to take place and to thrive. So it's that kind of mix. And it's becoming more and more rare, actually. And that I think is what the developed countries of the world need to begin to do.
In terms of green policies, I've heard, I don't know if you know him, Bjorn Lomborg, the Danish environmentalist. He's pretty critical about how money is presently used to go green. He said that without breakthroughs, technological breakthroughs, that we're not going to achieve any meaningful goals in terms of avoiding the planet warming up. And he said that if only a part of money used for a lot of subsidies would be redirected to innovations, that would probably be a much better way going forward. What do you think?
I generally agree with it. It's a question as well. I mean, I think in Europe, in many European countries, the incentives to innovate are not very high. So if you're a German innovator, you're taxed if you take your innovation out of Germany. In France, tax rates on entrepreneurs are still high. Mm-hmm. And I think also legacy businesses like fossil fuels are probably not given a disincentive to stop what they're doing and to innovate in other areas. So I generally agree with them. I'm 100% behind the environmental cause, but I'm not an environmental scientist, so I can't comment with great precision or authority on any of this.